Hey, Joker Prime here with you today doing a video on where to start with Yu-Gi-Oh! And what is Yu-Gi-Oh! So, as far as what is Yu-Gi-Oh!, it is a card game based on a Japanese manga, a Japanese comic book essentially, that was made into a cartoon, an anime. And the card game actually goes in waves following the cartoon. So as a new generation of the cartoon, the anime is released, they usually introduce a new mechanic or new types of cards into the game. Well, then those get released into the game in real life as well most of the time. So it's not a matchup played exactly the same in the cartoon and what you'd be playing, but in a lot of ways it's the same. You can get those same things, the same cards that they're using, generally you can get. Sometimes they may have slightly different effects. But where to get started? So they have starter decks and structure decks. These things are about $10 and they come with a fully ready to play deck. They come with a game mat to play on, which as a beginner, very helpful. You do not have to have one of those to play. And there's different types you can use if you're a more experienced player, but here's just an old school game mat that came with an old structure deck. It lays out your card zones for you, so it lays out the playing field for you to help you remember how the playing field's structured, where you set things. So over here is your graveyard, where things go when they die or are destroyed. Your deck zone. These are your monster card zones. Here on the bottom, we got the spell and trap zone. This is for fusion monsters, fusion deck, and I believe now it's just considered your extra deck because there are different newer types of cards that will go in that same zone with your fusion monsters. For Tabletop Syndicate's purposes, we will be playing a slightly older version most of the time of the Yu-Gi-Oh! We haven't fully kept up with the times. So there's the original, then there was 5Ds. I may be lying. No, I'm not going to try to put them in order because I already know, I'm pretty sure I messed that up. I think the one where they were in the academy or whatever was next. But if you don't know anything about any of it, that doesn't matter to you. But so basically there's the old original version where there's ritual cards and fusion cards, and I'll do another video talking about the different types of cards. But then they at some point introduced synchro summoning. They introduced something called Xyz monsters. There's Pendulum, which we may play some of that. And then there's Cyberlink, which we have not any experience on at the moment. We may learn or fumble through it, so you can watch us play with some of that. We do, I believe, have 2 decks of Cyberlink decks that we could play, but I'm pretty sure we only have 2 of those. So probably won't be seeing them a lot, especially because don't really want to try to play Cyberlink versus an old original starter type thing. So you'll see some of that. We also have not done it yet, but there are these called speed duels, which is just another type of way to play. I believe they have a smaller battlefield, obviously smaller decks. If you look at one of these, you can just see the difference in size there. But we'll probably bring you some speed duel videos as well. Like I said, we have not tried those out yet either, so we're gonna have to learn that. So we'll probably do a video with us learning as we try to teach it to you, and then more videos of us actually playing. So we'll set up tournaments with these, with our Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks. If you've watched any of our HeroClix content, tournaments is kind of one of our favorite things to do with our tabletop gaming. We like to draw up brackets and play through them and see who wins, either which team or in this case, which deck makes it. So for getting started on this, I recommend getting a starter and a structure deck, or two structure decks, two starter decks, whatever it may be. Come with an official rulebook. So I'm gonna read you the section on getting started real quick from this rulebook, because obviously that's what this video is partially about. As I mentioned, first thing you'll need is a deck. You have a minimum of 40 cards, and you have a limit of up to 3 copies of the same card in your deck. So you can only have 3 copies of the exact same card in your deck. You can't have 5 copies of one monster, 5 copies of one spell. There are some cards that are limited or forbidden, but if you're playing casual at home, you don't have to worry about that unless you want to. But there's some cards that says you can only have 1 copy of this one in your deck because it's so strong, or for going up and playing at a store, or if you try to get into even bigger tournaments than that, then you can't have any copies of this card because it's too powerful with the way the game is played now, or just in general for tournament play. So if you're interested in that, you need to make sure you look up the ban and forbidden list, or limited and ban list. There are additional things you may need. So essentially, to play, you need a deck of at least 40 cards, and your opponent needs a deck of at least 40 cards. If you each have that, you can play. The game mat is helpful, as I mentioned, but you don't have to have it. It just helps you get your things in order and helps keep your cards off things that might be on the table. Additional things you may need depending on the cards you have. Some cards require a coin flip. Some require dice rolls. Some require what are called counters. So you're actually counting things. You're accumulating the count or turn count. So I use dice for that. Depending on what card you're using, you're needing a counter for. You may need a D20, but the majority of the time, a D6 gets the job done. A calculator, if you would feel more comfortable with the calculator, that's probably just making sure that you're keeping up with life points accurately. Again, casual, probably not a big deal. If you need to whip it out on a calculator, should be fine. One thing that's recommended is card sleeves. So let me go ahead and pull one out real quick. So this is a card sleeve that came in a, I don't remember if it was a 10 or what it was, but the card is not in there, and it just keeps your cards nice and safe, and it's kind of nice. Obviously, you don't want to shuffle these like playing cards. You want to keep your cards nice. So you do kind of a, whatever you call it, shuffle, just where you kind of mix them around. So having them like this helps. And it just kind of feels nice having them in the sleeves. And then another recommendation I would make would be deck boxes. Pretty nice deck box. Your deck fits in there. If your deck doesn't fit in there, then probably too big. You might want to cut it down a little bit, but they help with transporting your deck. They help protecting your cards even more. So I definitely think it's handy to have a deck box, and sleeves on your cards. Again, not required, but could be something that's helpful. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I'll be bringing you more how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Tutorials, and we'll be bringing you some actual gameplay content. You got any questions, drop them in the comments. Please like and subscribe.